Last spring, my brother Robert got promoted. Not just a little step up, but one of those company-wide celebrated, champagne poured in the office kinds of promotions. He landed in senior management, scored the corner office, and had his name lit up like a damn trophy. My parents couldn't have been prouder. To celebrate, they whisked him and his girlfriend off on a Mediterranean cruise. First class everything. They sent photos nonstop. Dinners at sunset, matching white robes, champagne glasses held high with captions like, "So proud of our boy." I looked at every picture, smiled, even called Robert before they left. Told him he earned it. And then I clocked back in and went back to work. A few months later, my turn came. I got promoted too, not as flashy, but still a big deal for me. I took on a lead role in analytics at my firm. First time I was managing a team. First time my name showed up in the company bulletin. Over dinner one evening, I shared the news with my parents. They nodded, smiled politely. My dad said, "That's great." My mom asked what kind of clothes I'd need to wear now. Then, just like that, we were back on Robert. His girlfriend had just opened a boutique, and they'd gotten a new dog. I hadn't even finished my burger. I wasn't expecting a cruise. I wasn't expecting anything big, honestly. But maybe a card? A toast? A "we're proud of you too" something. Instead, that weekend, they went off to the lake house. Just the two of them. No invite, no message. Just a photo from the dock. My dad holding a coffee mug. My mom smiling into the breeze. Caption read, "Finally some peace and quiet." First, I brushed it off. Told myself it didn't have to mean anything. Not every achievement comes with a parade. But then I heard from my aunt that my parents had already offered to pay for Robert's wedding venue. Thing is, Robert wasn't even engaged. I asked my mom about it and she just waved it off. "We just want them to be taken care of when the time comes." Like they were preparing a life for him one step ahead. A future they didn't think I needed. Or one they figured I'd figure out alone. I thought about pushing back. About saying, "Hey, do you even notice how different it is with me?" But I didn't want to sound like I was whining. I didn't want to be the jealous brother. So I said nothing. Buried it. Then my birthday came around. Tuesday that year. I wasn't hoping for balloons or anything. Maybe just dinner, a call. Something small. When I called to ask if they were free, my dad said, "Actually, we're heading out of town for a couple days." I asked where. He said, "Christopher Cruise Line we took with Robert. They gave us a discount to come back." I didn't respond. He let out this awkward chuckle and added, "We'll bring you next time." But we both knew that was a lie. There was never going to be a next time, not for me. So there I was that night, sitting alone in my apartment, eating lo mein out of the box and scrolling through photos of their new cruise. Fancy dinners, poolside views. Robert had commented on one of them, "Deja vu." Dozens of likes. Not a single mention of me. And that's when it hit me, not in a dramatic, angry way. Just a quiet shift. A kind of clarity. This wasn't really about a trip. It was about roles. About how they saw me. I wasn't the forgotten son. I was the one they assumed didn't need anything. The one who wouldn't speak up. Who didn't make waves. Who they could just overlook. And that version of me? He wasn't going to last much longer. About 2 weeks after that cruise, they had one of their usual family barbecues. Sunday afternoon, nothing fancy. Robert showed up with his girlfriend. A couple aunts and uncles were there, along with my cousin Christopher. I almost skipped it, but I guess part of me wanted to see. Maybe they'd say something. Maybe someone would remember it had been my birthday, or ask about the promotion. Just a word. A nod. I got a handshake from my dad. A half-hearted hug from my mom. No, happy birthday. No, how's work? Just more chatter about Robert. He'd been invited to speak at some leadership conference. My parents were practically glowing as he rattled off the guest list and topics. Everyone clapped. Someone asked if he was nervous. His girlfriend said, "He was made for this." I took a slow sip of beer and just watched. No one turned to me. Not once. When the food came out, I helped carry trays, brought drinks, cleaned up a spill. Nobody said a word. At one point, my mom handed me her phone and asked if I could take a photo. I lined everyone up. centered them in the frame. And there it was, everyone smiling, arms slung around each other, with Robert right in the middle. And me, behind the camera. She didn't ask me to join in. I snapped the shot, handed the phone back, and slipped inside the house, pretending to check my phone. But I didn't come out again right away. I stood just outside the kitchen, out of view, and listened. They were talking about Christmas. Robert and his girlfriend were planning a trip abroad. Their gift to themselves, my mom said, laughing. My dad offered to help pay for the flights. No hesitation. No one asked if I'd be around. No one seemed to remember I was even standing 10 feet away. I felt like a guest in the house I grew up in, someone who showed up to help but wasn't part of the real conversations anymore. Just there. Quiet. Background. That's when I made a choice. I wasn't going to go back and pick apart every slight. I wasn't going to ask why it always played out this way. But I was done pretending it didn't bother me. So when Christmas rolled around, I stayed quiet. No gifts. No visit. Not even a text. I let the silence speak for me. 3 days after, my mom called. We miss you, she said. I told her work had me tied up. She said, you could have said something. I replied, I thought about it. But then I remembered you didn't say anything when you boarded a cruise on my birthday. There was a pause. Then she said, defensive almost, we didn't mean to hurt you. We didn't think it mattered that much. What she said stuck with me, not because it was cold or meant to sting, but because it was plain truth. They didn't think I'd care, and honestly, I taught them not to. I ended the call not in anger, but with a kind of quiet finality. Just said goodbye and hung up. After that, I started turning things down. The next family gathering? I told them I had plans. The one after that? I didn't bother responding. Over time, the invites slowed down. Fewer texts. Fewer calls. Meanwhile, they were still seeing Robert every week. Still posting photos from brunch, tagging him in articles about young trailblazers. Me? I faded. Not in a dramatic way, just drifted out of frame. I became a ghost in my own family. And for once, I stopped trying to haunt the place. That shift, quiet but real, was when I stopped measuring my wins by whether anyone clapped for them. I quit waiting for people to look my way. People who'd made it clear they weren't checking in that direction to begin with. So I turned to my work, and not in the usual let me bury my emotions in spreadsheets kind of way. I poured myself into it because I wanted to see how far I could go. I pitched bold ideas, took risks I would have avoided a year earlier. I led a team that doubled under my watch. Eventually, I took on oversight of 3 departments. I wasn't just crunching numbers anymore, I was shaping strategy, helping set direction. My name started showing up in newsletters I used to just scroll through. I sat on a panel. I mentored newer hires. It wasn't about approval anymore. It was about building something that felt like mine. And I was doing it. That Christopher year, I bought a condo. Not a mansion, just a clean, sunlit space in a city I loved. A little place near a park with a balcony that caught the best light right before dusk. I threw a housewarming party. Invited coworkers, a few old college friends, some neighbors. My parents weren't on the list. Robert wasn't either. Not out of spite, but because I was done performing. I didn't want to smile through the comparisons or hear them quietly stack my life next to Robert's and judge the difference. I'd earned everything I had, I didn't need anyone's stamp of approval on it. Then one day, out of nowhere, I got a message on LinkedIn. Some old family friend, someone I barely remembered, reached out. Simple, polite, heard about your recent accomplishments. Huge congrats. Your parents must be so proud. I stared at that message for a long time. Because no, they weren't proud. They hadn't said a word. Not when I got the new role. Not when I posted a photo from my balcony, my first post in half a year. Just me smiling, holding a glass, standing in my own space. People commented. Family friends liked it. My cousin even told me she showed her mom. So I knew the post had made the rounds. They knew. Of course they knew. And yet silence. Then Robert got engaged. And it wasn't just a ring and a selfie, it was a full-on production, golden hour field photos, a branded hashtag, champagne, a drone shot of the proposal. The caption read, she said yes, ring couldn't have done it without the people who always believed in me. First comment? My mom, we're so proud of you, sweetheart. You've built something beautiful. I didn't rage. Didn't throw my phone. I just closed the app. Because I could feel it now, not rejection. Not jealousy. Just the difference. Between being overlooked and being free. I didn't send a gift. Didn't hit the like button. Didn't respond when my dad texted me a week later to say they were planning an engagement party and figured I'd be there. I texted back, I won't be attending. No explanation. No sorry. And for once, no guilt. That's when I noticed the tone shift. My mom's voicemails got softer. My dad's texts came a little more often, but with this unsure edge, like they weren't sure why things felt different. But the thing is, you can't notice someone's absence if you never really saw them in the first place. And I wasn't pulling away to punish anyone. I was walking away because I finally got it. You don't owe closeness to people who only show up when it benefits the image. You don't have to sit at a table where your chair was always temporary. I wasn't chasing applause anymore. But then, the nomination came in, and something inside me sparked. It was from an industry group I'd admired quietly for years. The kind of people who don't throw praise around. The email read, Nominee, David, Leadership in Tech and Analytics. I had to read it twice. Then I just sat there. Not grinning. Not tearing up. Just still. Because for the first time, I was being recognized by people who didn't owe me a thing. And they saw me anyway. My coworkers threw a little celebration. Someone decorated the kitchen with a "Congrats, Alex" banner. A cake appeared with my name on it in piped frosting. There were toasts, laughs, a card from my old manager that read, "You did this your way. No shortcuts. All earned." I shared one photo online, just the nomination plaque. No caption. Comments rolled in. Old friends, colleagues, professors, a few distant relatives. My cousin Karen liked it, then messaged me. "Saw your name on the list. I told your mom." "She didn't know?" I asked. "She knew," she replied. "She just didn't say anything. Or didn't want to. Or maybe she didn't think it mattered enough to pick up the phone." A week later, the awards ceremony happened. Black tie event. Fancy venue. Professional photos. I didn't win. But it didn't matter. Just being nominated, just hearing my name read aloud in that room full of people who actually saw me. That was everything. And when I came home that night, still in my suit, holding the program in my hand, I opened my phone. And that's when I saw it. The post popped up while I was waiting for my takeout. Another one from Robert, something shiny and career-related, full of corporate buzzwords and professional headshots. Buried under the pile of likes and claps was a comment from our mom. "We've never been prouder." I stared at it, the timing clear as day, 2 hours after my name had been read aloud at an event that, for me, felt like a mountain finally crested. But there it was. Her pride broadcast to the world, just not for me. And I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just sat back, let the sting hit, and finally admitted something I'd been dodging for years. This was never about effort, or success, or who was making headlines. It was about roles. And mine was already written before I ever showed up to play it. I wasn't the favorite. I was the fallback. The one who could take care of himself. The one they assumed didn't need a hand, a spotlight, or even a nod. So they gave me nothing. Not out of malice, but because they thought I'd survive the silence. That night, I opened a blank doc on my laptop and started typing. Not to them, but to the part of me that still flinched every time they overlooked something I'd done. I wrote, "You've done enough. You don't need to keep proving anything. They saw you. They just refused to say it out loud. And now you don't owe them anything." I didn't send it. Didn't tell anyone about it. But something in me clicked shut after that. Like a door I hadn't realized was still cracked open. Weeks later, they called about Robert's wedding. "You're coming, right?" my mom asked, like it was a foregone conclusion. "No," I said. She paused, surprised, but trying to stay calm. "Robert would really like you there. Funny, he never said that. He assumed you'd come." "Exactly," I said. "That's the issue." She didn't like that. Her voice dropped into that familiar, tired register. The one that says, "Let's not make a thing out of this. You don't need to make this so dramatic." I'm not. I'm just done pretending this is normal. She didn't argue. She didn't explain. She just said, "Take care," and hung up like she was ending a customer service call. And that was it. No follow-up. No olive branch. Just a familiar kind of silence. But this time, I wasn't sitting in it hoping it might turn into something else. I skipped the wedding. Didn't send regrets. Didn't click the photo someone posted of them walking through sparklers. Just muted the group chat like you'd mute a radio station you were tired of hearing play the Christopher song. They didn't ask where I was. At least not to me. But a couple days later, I got a text from Christopher. "Hey, you all right?" I replied, "Yeah, why?" "Your mom seemed kind of off. I think people expected you to show up. She knew I wasn't going." "Sure. But I don't think she thought you'd follow through." That hit me harder than I expected. Because that was the truth. They'd built their lives around the idea that I'd show up, fill the gap, keep the peace. Even when it cost me something. Especially when it cost me something. But this time I hadn't. And the silence I left behind was loud. Christopher messaged me again a day later. "Talked to Aunt Linda. She said something weird." "What?" "Your dad told some people you were off doing your own thing. But he didn't say what that was." I blinked at that. Let it settle. "So they don't even tell people what I do?" "Guess not," he said. He changed the subject pretty fast. It wasn't just that they weren't proud of me. It was worse. They didn't even want to explain me. I didn't fit into their story. I wasn't their talking point. I'd built something solid, something I was proud of, and they chose to look away. Not because it wasn't enough, but because it wasn't theirs. A few days later, Christopher and I grabbed coffee. First time in a while. We talked. Really talked. About work, life, what had changed. He looked guilty. "I guess I just assumed you were too busy to keep in touch," he said. I told him. "But not for you." He nodded, then said something that knocked the air out of me. "I always knew they treated you differently. I just didn't know how much it cost you." That was the part people miss. The weight doesn't show until you finally stop carrying it. As we wrapped up, he looked at me and asked, "Do you think you'll ever come back?" To the family." I thought for a second. "Maybe," I said. "But only if I get to choose where I stand. I'm not showing up just to be tolerated again." That night, I walked past the nomination letter, still framed by the front door. It used to be proof. Now it was just part of the room. Quiet. Steady. Like me. I didn't need it to mean anything anymore. But I didn't take it down either. Some reminders aren't about being seen. They're about knowing who you are even when no one's watching. 6 months passed. Then I got a message. Short. Cautious. "Hey, you free to talk sometime?" It was from Robert. I stared at it for longer than I should have. He wasn't the vague type. Everything with him was scheduled, optimized, color-coded. This was different. 2 hours later, I replied, "Yeah. What's going on?" He asked if we could meet for coffee. I said okay. We picked a spot halfway between us. A quiet place, mid-afternoon, mostly empty. When he walked in, he looked tired. Still dressed like a man who had somewhere important to be. But there was something worn in the way he moved. A crack in the polish. He didn't start with small talk. Just sat down, looked at me, and said, "You didn't come to the wedding." I nodded. "No, I didn't." He nodded back. Not angry. Just accepting. "I kind of expected that," he said. "But I hoped you would." "I know," I said. "But you never asked me to." He paused. "I didn't think I had to." I met his eyes. "That's exactly why I didn't." "That's kind of the point," he said, voice low. He stared down at his coffee like it might offer an answer. "I think I didn't ask because I already knew you wouldn't come." I let that sit between us a moment. "And why do you think I wouldn't?" He didn't look up. "Because we let you go a long time ago. We just kept pretending it was your idea." There it was. No drama. No pity. Just truth finally spoken out loud by someone other than me. I nodded slowly. You know what stung the most? It wasn't the vacations. Or the applause. Or the way no one said my name when I got promoted. He looked at me, eyebrows drawn slightly together. It was the emptiness, I said. The long stretches where no one even asked. Where your celebrations echoed loud while mine didn't make a sound. It wasn't that I didn't speak, it's that I got tired of yelling in a house where no one looked up. Robert didn't try to argue. He didn't soften it with excuses. He just sat there, and for the first time in years, he actually looked like he heard me. "They didn't mean to shut you out," he offered. "I know," I said. "But that doesn't change the fact that they did." We ended up talking longer than either of us expected. About the way things were always tilted. About how I was the one expected to be self-sufficient and how being seen as fine slowly became the Christopher thing as being ignored. And then he said something that caught me off guard. "I like being the center of it all," he admitted. "I didn't realize how much space I took up until you stopped standing in the corner." I didn't respond right away. Because I knew he meant it. And because I'd needed to hear that more than I realized. Before we left, he asked, "Would you ever come back around?" "Not for them. Just to be present. Like really present." "Maybe," I said. but not if it means pretending again. He gave a small nod. I wouldn't want that either. That mattered. Because it wasn't a rope pulling me back to where I'd been. It was a space being cleared ahead of me, and I got to decide if I wanted to step into it. Later that night, he texted. Thanks for today. Hope it wasn't just a one-time thing. I replied. That's not up to one of us anymore. And for the first time, I meant it. Spring rolled in quiet. No grand gestures. No family summits. Just a short message from Robert. Doing something low-key at our place Saturday. Come by if you want. No pressure. I stared at it longer than I meant to. I wasn't angry anymore. I just didn't know what showing up meant now. Was I coming as a guest? As a brother? As someone who still had a place? I almost ignored it. But I didn't. When I arrived, the house surprised me. It didn't look like success. It looked like a home. The furniture didn't match. The walls weren't curated. The dining table was clearly meant for conversation, not photos. No one gasped when I walked in. No dramatic music cue. Just Robert in the kitchen tossing a dish towel over his shoulder, saying, "Hey, glad you're here." And then look Aaron, our cousin, gesturing at a seat near the end of the table. Sit here. This one's yours. Not saved. Not symbolic. Just there. I sat. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to earn the space I was in. The conversation touched on work, lightly. I mentioned something about restructuring and new hires. No one laughed or acted surprised I had leadership responsibilities. Aunt Linda said she saw my panel talk online and liked how I handled the moderator's curveball. Someone brought up the wedding, not as a guilt trip, just as a footnote in the family calendar. No one tried to make me feel bad for being gone. Because sometimes absence isn't rebellion. It's survival. As the night wound down, Robert found me in the hallway while people rinsed dishes and divvied up leftovers. I didn't tell Mom you were coming, he said. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't think she needed to be in the loop? She would have made it about her, he said. And this wasn't about her. I smirked. She gonna be mad? He shrugged. She always is. But if I'm gonna take heat, I'd rather it be for something that mattered. That made me laugh. Really laugh. No sharp edges. No lingering resentment. Just two brothers acknowledging what we both knew. This was the first time we were doing it our way. He walked me out without a big send-off. Just tossed me a line as I hit the steps. Next time, you're cooking. I turned back. Fine. But I'm playing the music. Driving home, I didn't feel like I'd come full circle. It wasn't a storybook return. My parents still hadn't reached out. Still acted like Robert's life was the only one worth chronicling. But it didn't burn anymore. Because I'd stopped needing their spotlight to feel seen. I'd stopped measuring my worth by how loud they clapped. And I'd let the life I built grow sturdy enough that it didn't shrink when I walked back into the room. That chair at Robert's table wasn't redemption. It wasn't a redo. It was acknowledgement. A gesture. Not to say you belong now, but you always did, we just didn't know how to show it. And I didn't walk in needing to be the star. I walked in because I finally knew who I was even when no one was watching. You don't always get the closure you want. Or the apology you earned. Most times, you get something smaller. Someone remembers your name. Someone sets out a chair. And if you're lucky, that's all it takes.